Welcome back, guys, to another video. In this video, me and Ryan are excited to talk about all the different types of ways that you can make some money in recruitment. And Ryan, definitely appreciate you being here. He's one of the main coaches here with the Recruiter School and an absolute amazing rockstar recruiter himself, and excited to continue to give you value. So, Ryan, you ready to kind of get into this?
Let's do it. I'm happy to be here.
Any initial thoughts before we get in? Obviously, people don't want to come into recruiting making no money. When it comes to making some money and moolah, if you will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of recruiting is not only is it a place where you can make quite a lucrative amount of money, but there's also a bunch of different ways to do it, which we'll get into here. So there's no one size fits all. Really is able to kind of meet your lifestyle and what you're looking for. So excited to chat more.
Perfect. So let's kick it off with my favorite guy, solo recruiting. This is how I started when I started working for myself. It's awesome. Basically, it is exactly how it sounds. You're a one-man thing. You're a one-person operation, working by yourself, usually full desk, where you have to go out there, get your own clients, go out there, get your own candidates, put it together. But it's all about flexibility and just being able to live life on your own terms. And I think what drew me initially to become a solo recruiter in the beginning is I used to love to travel. I still absolutely travel, not as much as I did before, but I really bought into that whole nomadic digital lifestyle. And if that's something that is really attractive to you, you guys want to, work from coffee cafes, work on the beach, work out of co-working spaces, working out of your van or something, like you can totally do that as a solo recruiter, which is super, super cool. And making money in solo recruitment is not that different from when you're starting your own agency or other models that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But typically it's either contingent where you charge typically 15 or 30% off the candidate's salary, or you can do a retained, which is more of like basically what you're about to make. You can break it up usually in three ways: upfront, monthly, and kind of a back end, which we can elaborate more a little bit later. Or you can even do an hourly thing if that's your thing, and you basically decide what your hourly rate is, add a little markup to it, gives you more of a stable weekly and monthly income. And the beautiful thing here is you're a solo recruiter. You can stay as a solo recruiter, but you're also kind of like a solo CEO or solo boss. So you can set your own rates, you can set your own percentage, you can, choose who you want to work with. It's all about flexibility. In terms of the potential platforms, there's a lot that you guys can choose from right now. These are some that are very, very popular. Terraform is very focused on tech. We share this, other recruiter school students share this, and other members share their roles too. And it's very, very collaborative and cool. But yeah, Ryan, any thoughts about solo recruiting here? I can go on and on and on and on and on.
Are you struggling with getting responses from clients? Are you an established recruiter who is struggling to break six figures and beyond? Are you looking to start recruiting part-time and you don't know how? Do you feel burned out and stuck spending hours and hours each day in manual tasks like sourcing and outreaching and feeling like you have no time to actually run and grow your business? I am absolutely happy to announce that we have launched our own recruitment, educational, and coaching program to help you on your journey. We made sure that everything I've learned in the past 10 years, the tips, the strategies that really helped me build multiple seven figures of placements on my own desk with some of the best companies in the world will be included in there. We'll also be including things like how you can build an acquisition system that brings in clients every month to your agency hands-free, how you can maximize the probability of a positive close during negotiations, how you can automate and outsource your day-to-day operations so that you don't have to spend hours per day researching or sourcing, how you can figure out the new and modern way to scale your agency that minimizes risk and maximize your upside potential. And we've also included much, much more. The best thing about this is not only will you be getting amazing content, but we will also handhold you and be with you every step of the way to make sure that you are held accountable and you crush your goals. We'll also share with you our own tech stack, tools, and plugins we actually use, plus everything else we know about automation and AI to help you save time, work smarter, and not be a slave to your business. The exciting news is that we've actually rolled this out to a select few people earlier this year, and I'm excited to see them well on the way to multiple six figures, with some breaking $30,000 to $50,000 per month already. So if you're interested to be a successful recruiter that can dominate in any market conditions, make sure you click on the link below to chat with another member of our team, and we're happy to chat with you to see if we can help you out. Make sure you jump on this really quickly. See you on the other side.
Upwork, which is more of like a splits opportunity, Fiverr, Upwork. We also have our own splits platform too, where you can work directly with me, Brian, and the team, interacting and engaging with all of our open roles. We share this, other recruiter school students share this, and other members share their roles too. And it's very, very collaborative and cool. But yeah, Ryan, any thoughts about solo recruiting here? I can go on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, this is definitely a fun one. And I think it's a good entry level type of recruiting, a great way to just get started. You're on your own, you call the shots, and it does give you that maximum some flexibility to work where you want, when you want, with who you want. And so for folks who are looking for a little more flexibility, a little more freedom, this is definitely a fun one to go with. And one thing I'll highlight too here, Preston, is as we go through this video and talk about different styles of recruiting, you don't have to just choose one and then you're stuck with it, for your career. You can always start freelance, start solo, and maybe pick a different route down the line. So I just want to highlight, it's not a choose one and then you're stuck with it. You can choose one that works for you now, and then down the line, you can always reassess to see maybe there's a different style that works for you later.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about solo recruiting is you can also just remain as a solo recruiter forever, right? Recruiting is so cool because you can make a lot of money. Like the placements are very considerable, right? Like an average placement can be $20,000 to $30,000 in a contingent fashion. And you do a handful of those a year, you can have an amazing life. So there's no really needed extra pressure that you can put on yourself to be like, oh my God, I need to turn this into a business, or oh my God, I have to just this is not legitimate in some way. Like it kind of feels like almost a glitch in the matrix where what other job out there where you can kind of work on your own terms, be flexible, you can make a full-time income without having to work yourself, just grinding ridiculous hours each day. And then not only that, you're talking to amazing professionals and you're making fantastic relationships on the way. And so I think me, I just worked for about my first 5 or 6 years, and that was my choice. And I decided, I want a different challenge. So I want to kind of explore the agency world and kind of hire and scale team, but you don't have to do that. And some people just want to do agencies and scale. Others just want to keep it simple. And with freelance and solo recruiting, this is both full-time and part-time. You can also be a freelance recruiter on the side with a full-time job. And a lot of people do that too. And I think that's kind of the best of both worlds. If you have a job that's not too demanding, you have salary, you have benefits. But if you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 placements on the side of that, that's an additional significant income to already what you're doing. And that could be a win-win-win-win.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, why don't we talk about, I guess, the level 2 of that, which is basically starting solo but here now with the intent of starting your own recruitment agency. So what are your thoughts here, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is pretty similar to going freelance, but there are a couple more moving pieces. It's a little more focused on growth, building some more sustainable cash flow, building out a team to help you be able to take a step back from the business, on the business, not in the business, as we say. And so again, this one is more growth focused down the line. And so being that is more growth focused, you're hiring out a team, there are some higher costs, but there is also higher potential revenue because the more recruiters you can add to the team, the more revenue they can bring in. That gives you more bandwidth to bring in more clients, to bring in more fees. And so that's where you start to think about this as a business and not just, you on the side doing something for yourself. And so this is when you also start thinking more about what's my niche? What are my areas of expertise? How can I pitch my value so that this company can really succeed for the long term? So a lot of perks there, again, a lot of growth, a lot more stability with revenue potentially. But you got to think too about what are the costs for that. If you're hiring a team, do you pay them salary? Are you paying them a commission? Do you pay a lease for an office? What kind of tools, equipment, technology do you pay for your team to get you there? So I wouldn't say it's inherently more risky, but there's more input that goes into it for potentially more output. So that's something you're definitely going to want to balance. And so that's really at a high level, kind of the big differences between freelance, going solo versus going into an agency. As we talked about earlier, a lot of folks choose to go into an agency after starting freelance, as I know you had done for yourself, Preston. So this absolutely can be a good next step once you've gone solo, or if you really feel confident about wanting to build out a strong cash flowing business, they could also be a good first step for you as well if you want to jump right into the agency side of things. What do you think, Preston?
I think if you wanted to start your own business in recruitment, it's really important that you can do it yourself. Recruitment is one of those career paths where it's absolutely sales oriented, and in different other businesses, you can be able to start and build businesses and scale businesses differently. But in more sales oriented, you can't really expect your team to perform highly if you can't even do it yourself, right? And so I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people go is that they have zero previous recruitment experience, or maybe they have minimal, but then they weren't able to break even 6 figures or even bill 40K a year. And then they're like, I want to build an agency and hire all these people to 500. You can maybe luck out, of course, finding people who can hopefully fix your business. But if you're looking to kind of banking on hope and leaning on future hires to solve and make the business for you, that's the wrong way to do it. So I think the important thing is if you have aspirations to start an agency, become an amazing solo recruiter first, or perhaps you have a job. Make sure you learn everything. You become a top biller first, then take that skill set with you to the agency world. And then you can now train other people to do the same, essentially duplicating yourself. But if if you can't do, don't hire, don't add that extra risk and expense to your life. When it comes to an agency, the biggest difference, there obviously is a lot of similarities between starting your own agency from day one. There's still technically a solo recruiter, but it's all about like how you can grow and scale. It's all about scaling. It's all about leverage. You're leveraging other amazing talent on your team. And then the biggest thing here is you want to be able to build a business that can run with or without you, right? Like everyone loves that phrase that you want to be able to make money while you sleep. That's a business, but that can only happen if you hire correctly. But most importantly, you create those processes and systems so that everything works together. You create a good culture. You create a good foundation for you to be able to scale. So agency allows you to do more. Yes, inherently there is more risk to it, but everything has risk. If you want to make more money, you gotta risk more, right? If you want to build something, then you gotta risk more. So for many people, they just don't even want to bother doing the risk. They're actually happy being a solo freelance recruiter, and that's fine. But for others who are hungrier, who have aspirations to run a business, that's awesome. Do an agency. But you really only technically have a business once you create systems, once you create processes, once you're able to hire people that they know exactly what to do, that can perform at a high level, so that you get your time back and then you can focus on all the other important, exciting things. But again, it can be just as flexible. You run your own business, you live life on your own terms, but you're also accepting, hey, these are the extra risks that come with it. But for most people doing it, they understand the risks, they embrace it, they acknowledge it, and they're like, let's go and build this thing as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to again highlight the point you made, Preston, about before you think about starting an agency, make sure you got the fundamentals and the recruiting piece down, because oftentimes we see people with no recruiting experience say, okay, I'm gonna figure this out, and you got to learn two different skill sets at once. You got to figure out how to recruit, but also how to run a business. And so just because you know one piece doesn't necessarily mean you know the other. And so even if you are a great recruiter, you know the ins and outs. Maybe you're working in an agency now, you're working in corporate in-house. That's great, and that recruiting experience will be helpful when you have your own agency. But there's also some other business skills about setting the business up, getting those clients, business development, that there's some muscles that you didn't have to flex in your past roles. So just going to keep that in mind. If you're thinking about, do I start off going freelance, going solo, or do I start out right with the agency? There is some more complexity, some more moving parts that you have to do on the agency side. So if that's something you're comfortable with and you feel interested and excited to tackle, by all means, go ahead. But if you just want to focus all day, every day on just the recruiting piece, maybe it makes sense to go to the freelance route instead of going to the agency route.
Guys, I completely agree. Fundamentals are everything. Fundamentals alone can make you millions of dollars, right? Make you extremely successful. So don't just go to 0 to 60 and think of automations, technologies, and hiring people. Learn it yourself. Fundamentally, I still believe in 2025 moving onward, if you have strong fundamentals, you can be absolutely successful. You may or may not know my story, but I had zero money when I started. All I used was LinkedIn. That's it. And I was able to make the most money I was able to make in my entire life. Same with Ryan or anyone else. There's no need to spend more than several hundreds of dollars per month on your desk on tools, right? And so learn it first. Become a top performer first. Then you can kind of take it step by step to, running an amazing business that's hopefully growing and very profitable for you. That's awesome. Let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about recruitment process outsourcing, also known as RPO. But here you're not just placing individual candidates, you're also taking over an entire company's recruitment process, right? So you're kind of like an outsourced talent acquisition arm for companies. And what's really cool is that you can do this remote, but you can also embed yourself into a company. So let's say the company Google, takes you on as RPO. You can actually, assuming they have no corporate recruiters, right? You can just come in and you basically act as a recruitment arm. You can, they'll give you a Google email address, they'll give you a Google LinkedIn account, and you basically reach out a lot of times with their domain and thinking that you're part of their corporate recruiting arm, which is really, really cool. Other times you don't do that, but that can also happen. But the fact that you can also embed yourself, work out of your client's office, I think is pretty cool. It's you're working for yourself, you have an agency, you kind of also get that corporate internal recruitment vibe. So a little bit of best of both worlds. But typically RPO agreements are longer term. They involve larger businesses with higher volume, specialized needs. Hey, we're hiring all of these people. We need help right now, right? In terms of money-making potentials, they're often paid on a monthly retainer or fixed fee per hire. But again, it really is dependent on industry and sector. This can, of course, be different. Corporate sector, if the RPO involves managing the full recruitment process, the financial commitments from the clients can be substantial as well. And again, like with any model, it can be extremely lucrative, but requires sophisticated operation to handle the scale. It's not so much like an easy, cut and dry, black and white, like a direct placement contingent agent where you find a candidate and that's it. A lot more that kind of goes into it, with perhaps maybe more things getting about onboarding and more systems and more processes revolved around that, or basically kind of more back end things as well. In terms of the context, the revenue can be more predictable, more stable, as you get paid more often than just like, that one big direct placement chunk. But you ideally also need a stronger team, right? Especially if you're working on all these multiple roles in bulk, a better technology infrastructure systems, and the ability to manage complex relationship with other clients. And with RPOs, you can also affect a longer sales cycle. So once you're locked in with a client, it can still be completely worth it, despite the headaches, despite the speed, despite the cadence, all that stuff. So RPO is definitely something you can look into. You're still using the same recruitment fundamentals as a contract or temp or solo or agency owner on the retained or contingent side. So still the same thing, but still a great way for you to make money and to use as a great foundation point.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I'll highlight with RPO is for most folks, this is not your entry point into recruiting. If you've never recruited a day in your life, this probably isn't the method for you, because as you've been mentioning, Preston, there is a lot more input. You'll likely have a team at this point. You have a larger investment in technology stack, and you have a longer sales cycle. Well, yes, if you do get in with these clients and set up this RPO, like that could be extremely lucrative. And for the long term, you could build a long-term relationship. But this isn't normally the best route for a solo recruiter, so can do this part-time or work fully remote and have a little bit less attachment there. So I think this one is a little more geared toward folks who either have a team or have years and years of experience and feel very confident in their abilities to get the job done. This one may not be the best for folks who are just looking to dip their toes into the water. So definitely a lot of high reward in this, but a lot of more high input as well. So just something to keep in mind. Is this one the right route for you? Kind of depends on your skill set, your experience, your background, and your willingness to really embed yourself into a client's company.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. As much as we enjoy talking about the entrepreneurial agency side, as we're Ryan and I are clearly biased, you can also just get an amazing, fulfilling recruiting job and have a fantastic career as well. And this can apply to both agency and also more corporate recruiting. So I guess I can kick off talking about the agency. So in the agency world, right, you get high earning potential. They often earn higher commissions, especially if they work on a continual basis, as they're paid based on successful placement. It is very sales oriented. You join agencies, especially if they're sizable. Typically, it's a very traditional boiler room type of environment where it's open rooms and people on calls and there's just noise everywhere. People trying to close deals, calling clients. A lot of times your success is really just based on numbers. How many cold calls are you doing? How many cold emails? How many leads are you getting? How many placements are you doing per month? Which can, be very stressful and lead to burnout for a lot of people. But at the same time, if you're cut out for that, it can be very invigorating. Your goals are very clear. And as long as you have consistent work ethic and you can perform at a high level, it can be extremely fulfilling and extremely lucrative. I think because of that, it's easier to make a lot more money much faster in the agency world than the corporate world. Also, if you wanted to get a job in recruiting, it's also easier to probably get an agency job than corporate. Most corporate level recruitment jobs, even though they're like entry level, most of them require at least 1 to 3 years of professional recruitment experience, typically at an agency, right? So a lot of people start agencies, they move to corporate if they don't like the agency world, but a lot of people who thrive in the agency world, who are top billers, they just stay there because no matter how great the benefits or the offers on the corporate side, nothing can compete with the earning potential on the agency side. So again, the good news is that it's performance based. So if you're a top biller, you'll get paid more. But if you're not a top biller, you could struggle with a more, typically a lower base and all that stuff too. So it really depends on what you want. I think recruiting overall is sales job. But if you want to thrive and embrace all things sales, agency is the way to do it, right? But in terms of corporate recruiting, Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for the corporate side, the skill set and a lot of the day-to-day will look quite similar, but with the biggest difference between the two is when you're corporate, when you're in-house, your client is your company, right? You're not going out there every day doing business development, trying to find new clients. The company you work for is that client. So you're more focused on the candidate side. And with that comes a couple of different attributes that are different from the agency side. So firstly, when it comes to pay and pay stability, as you had mentioned earlier, Preston, on the agency side, it's a lot more commission-based, a lot more sales-based. That income potential is a lot higher. So on the corporate side, the pay in general tends to be lower. You're normally working from a lower base salary. You have less reliance on weekly, quarterly, monthly, yearly bonuses. And so that pay is, depending on where you are, a bit lower. But on the upside, you do get to build more long-term relationships. It's not necessarily a situation of, okay, you make a placement and then you're done. you never see the candidate again. Maybe not, don't talk to the client for a couple of months. The people that you are placing, you're placing them on your team at your company. So you get to really feel like you're building out the organization. You place someone, you get to see them in the office going forward. And so it really is more conducive for those long-term relationships. That said, when you're recruiting in a company, oftentimes you're recruiting roles all in that same industry that your company's in. So it can oftentimes feel like you're a little bit limited in the scope of the roles you work. You'll work the same type of role over and over and over again, which could be good. You get the expertise, you really get to know those roles well. But if you're someone who likes a little more variety, likes to talk to folks in different industries, that might be something to keep in mind there.
Yeah.
So those are really the big ones. But what are your thoughts, Preston?
I think looking back in my career, I considered going to corporate a couple times in my life. And the reason why I didn't is the earning potential. Since I became really a high performer from day one, like no salary could really compete with that. But I think finances aside, I think what I really, really liked was just the variety of roles at our agency, talking to different professionals, learning different professions and careers, perhaps, sometimes getting opportunity with our clients to work on roles we never would have, but like that kind of keeps it fun, keeps you on your toes. But at the same time, I think what could make corporate recruiting more fulfilling is if you join a company that also has a product or a service that you personally find very vibrational or fulfilling, right? Then you can like really feel like you're helping to kind of build that company. So with the agency world, we're working with a lot of clients. We just find candidates for them. We do a deal. That's it. We're happy to work with them again. But a lot of times it's a one-off. A lot of times the relationships are more shallow and quick and transactional. But in the corporate, you're part of that world. You're part of the team. You know the founder. You know the engineering teams. You know the HR team. You know the ops team. Right? It's like your company, and you really kind of feel like, hey, I built something of my own here, and I know everyone, and I embrace and I'm all about the culture and all that stuff too. So you can have a lot more of an ownership feeling working on the job. But hey, I think that the main takeaway for the slide, guys, is like to each their own, right? So whatever you want, there is something for everyone. Agency, more fast paced, a little bit more stress, maybe a little bit kind of like more go type of mentality. People who are typically finance driven, performance driven tend to excel really, really well, or more entrepreneurial tend to do really, really well. But again, people who are just really good at their jobs, they want a really good career, they want to just basically be able to thrive in different ways and in different culture and different kind of corporate setting. Corporate is fantastic too. You also get equity, you also get perhaps a performance bonus too, so it could still be lucrative as well. But you're not going to be making as much as fast on the agency side.
Yeah. And also going back to our earlier point about where you are in your career can depend on which type, style you do, whether it's getting a job or going freelance or going into or starting your own agency. I think this one, getting a recruiting job, is a fantastic starting point and really launch pad to go into owning your own business. Because if you say either work at an agency or work corporate in-house, you're essentially getting paid to practice what you want to do in the future for yourself. And so if you know that down the line, 3, 5, 10 years from now, you want to start your own recruiting business or you want to go solo, this is a fantastic way to get practice day in, day out, get those reps in and get paid to do it. So not only is this a great route if you want to stick with it as a career, stay at an agency or stay in-house, but if you have that entrepreneurial ambition in you, this can be a great way to learn the ropes and get paid to do it along the way.
I love that you said that, because that's exactly how I started my business. I worked at an agency. I was a full desk. And if you do get an agency job and you have aspirations to work for yourself, try to get a job that you do full desk, meaning you basically are your own CEO of your desk. So if you basically build your own desk from scratch, then your chances of succeeding as a solo recruiter, leapfrogging into your own agency, is very, very high, because then you exercise everything, you learn everything A to Z, the sales side and the candidate side. If you, for example, have a 180 or you have a corporate recruiting job where you only focus on the candidates, where a lot of people struggle when they want to make that switch work for themselves, is they've never really exercised or battle tested their sales side, right? Like they never had to go out there and get their own clients. They never had to really do any sales in their life. So that's why a lot of corporate recruiters actually fail, is because they're like, oh my God, just because I'm an amazing recruiter, I can go start my business. That's not the case either. You have to find someone who's a tried and tested sales professional who knows what they're doing, or you have to do it yourself. So the best way is, why not just have a job where you learn everything, right? So you're making the most of the time, and then when you want to make that jump, you can do it. If not, you're going to have to retrain yourself, join a program or something that can teach you how to do the best practices, and then you can kind of go ahead and kind of go up to the races, right? But I think, yes, best practice. Typically, if you're looking to start a business ever in the future, get a job in that sector, in that specific company, or like in that industry, learn everything from the ground up, and then make that jump.
Absolutely. I love that.
Why don't we finish this off with a couple of different payment structure, guys? And so if you've been following us for a while, you would know a lot of these, but I think if you're looking at this for the first time, or if some of these are unclear for you, then this is a great refresher. So let's kick it off. Contingent, guys. This this is what we do. You get charged one time, percentage of candidate's annual salary. So if your percent is 20%, you place the candidate with $100,000 salary, 20%, that's $20,000. Easiest way to get your foot in the door with prospective clients, low risk for them. It literally costs them nothing to try you out. Now, the downside is that you only get paid once you do a placement. So it's 100% performance based, 100% almost commission based. And so for people who are unfamiliar, uncomfortable with that, that can add a lot more anxiety or stress to you. But payouts are a lot higher. So if you're a top performer, you have strong fundamentals, you know what you're doing, contingent is the easiest way to get clients. It's the easiest way to make as much money as fast as possible. Retained, kind of the same thing. Basically, what you'd be making off the contingent, you kind of like restructure that into different terms, to kind of split it up, right? So typically the easiest way is like you have a third up front, a third monthly, and a third on the back end upon a milestone or successful placement. So if your perspective at placement was $30,000, maybe you can charge like 10K or 5K or maybe less upfront, whatever the difference, maybe a monthly as a retainer, and then something on the back end. The good news for this is that at least you're getting paid something, and you don't feel like, oh my God, it's kind of a swim or sink type of situation. But the downside is that it's harder to get clients because they have to pay something upfront, and most of them are unwilling to do that, especially now if they don't even know you. Right? The landscape's a lot more competitive. But the upside for you is like, oh, at least money's coming in. My personal opinion is like, I actually prefer the contingent side because like I'd rather, if I get paid, I'd rather get paid one lump sum. And to me, whether it's retained or contingent, I wouldn't really change anything about how I work, right? And I know from stories of other recruiters that when they go into the retained, it's great. Monthly income is fantastic, but some of them just kind of almost become a little bit soft. And you kind of like really start banking on this retained thing. You start like putting off the pressure, putting off the gas, and then you can, perhaps like, even though you're getting paid, you're still losing, or maybe, you go slower and other recruiters are able to kind of place candidates to ultimately get the placement. So with me, I like to go 200% always. And I'm like, hey, and I know the value of bringing to clients. And I know that, hey, if we have a client, there's a high chance on the contingent side, we have a high probability of placement, we can jump that, right? So for me, like, I think arguing or asking for a retainer is great. There's a time and place for that. It really changes nothing for me. There's competition everywhere. But like me and our team and our agency, we bring it and we know that, hey, if you engage just as a high chance we can close it, I'd rather get that whole one lump sum than just a retainer. But again, that's my personal opinion. Brian, what do you think? And what are some other things I think we can go over?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple other options to consider here. And firstly, when it comes to outsourcing some of the talent, because we're seeing a lot of companies these days are looking for ways to lower the costs of hiring folks and lower the cost of salaries that they have to pay. And so one of the routes they're looking into is hiring folks overseas where there's a lower cost of living and then correlating, a lower salary. And so there are a number of different agencies out there that specialize in doing just that, placing talent that is international for a much lower cost. So while that is a plus in helping these companies be able to lower their costs, that also means lower cash goes into your pocket. So just something to keep in mind where if this is a route you want to consider, I'm sure there's a lot of demand, which is great, but at the same time, every placement, every deal that you do will bring you in less revenue. Another one to consider is more on the staffing side, also known as temp. And this is similar to direct placement, but different in the fact that these employees would technically work under your company. You handle their benefits, their payroll, but then you contract them out to your clients. And so on the plus side, you do get some of that consistent revenue. The month over month, you could charge a little bit extra on top of their hourly cost, but you don't get that one big lump sum up front. So it could be good for if you want more consistency in your revenue, but is a little bit slower to get that full payout that you would get from a direct placement. I think it's a good route and a good way, again, to build that sustainability in your income, but you do got to think there are some more moving pieces, some more costs when it comes to, setting up your payroll software, managing time cards and things of that nature. Lastly, is one we see a lot too is executive search, finding and placing folks in the C-suite or the upper echelons of a company, and where you're be placing CEOs, CFOs, VPs, things like that. And so, well, those, because they have higher salaries, you're going to get paid more, which is awesome. Oftentimes companies are a little more, I guess, specific and picky, if you will, about who they want for these positions. So oftentimes these sales cycles are longer. They may have to go through more rounds of interviews and just vetting to ensure that they are the right fit for the company. But if you're able to build reputation in this space and do these types of placements continuously, that can be extremely, extremely lucrative compared to some of the other routes that we mentioned.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoy this video. As you can see, there's so many different ways for you to structure your payments and for you to make a lot of money, whether it's more commission-based, whether it's just a strong salary, whether it's, a fantastic career or something entrepreneurial, there is literally something for anyone here in the recruiting world, which is one of the reasons why I just love this industry so much. And so I hope that this video was able to give you more clarification and hopefully set you up on the right path. If you are more entrepreneurial, don't overcomplicate things. Start as a solo recruiter, learn it from the ground up, and then decide how fast you want to go. But don't skip that, beautiful digital nomadic sweet spot, which I just come to love. If I didn't have any aspirations growing agency, I probably just would have stayed as a solo recruiter forever. It was literally amazing. And so I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys can absolutely crush it and make a lot of money. If you feel like we left out something, comment down below. If you want to see more videos from me and Ryan, let us know as well. Really love hearing from you. We appreciate it. We will see you on the next one.